Thank you for taking my question. I have heard both you and Cory Booker opposing a wealth tax. I have not studied how it has failed in other countries, but I have a sense on how it would in this one for 5 reasons. The first is it costs a lot to administer, and so it is an inefficient way to tax. The second is it's very hard to determine how much value something has unless it is just money. A third is it encourages people to spend instead of investing and building a business. A fourth is it taxes the same money over and over again and erodes the money you have to tax. The fifth is because of inflation, unless the wealth tax is shaped to inflation, it erodes the money that people have, putting the cap that gets lower, and there is no money to tax. And my question is a 2-part question. The first is, do you have any more reasons why a wealth tax would fail? And the second is, what kind of a tax would you decide to have that would not tax poor people more than rich people?
Wow, what a great question. That was awesome and adorable. That person's the subject of some high-quality parenting, I would suggest. Congrats. So we're in the midst of this winner-take-all economy, and the question is, how do we balance it and turn it around? Bernie and Elizabeth champion a wealth tax, which I understand and even agree with in spirit. But I'm a facts and figures guy, and when they've rolled out a wealth tax in Germany, France, Sweden, Denmark, and half a dozen other countries, it didn't work, and then they repealed it in all of those places. So to me, if we don't learn from the experiences of other developed countries who tried something, do we think the wealthy in America are somehow more excited about participating in a wealth tax than the wealthy in Germany, France, Sweden, Denmark? They're probably worse, if anything, right? And I'm like that would have to be the argument you make, is like, it's going to work better here because, and it's like, why? Because like our wealthy are like somehow different than their wealthy. So the question is, how do you actually turn that around and balance the economy in a meaningful way? And the way I would do it is through this value-added tax that falls most heavily on the tech companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google, and the gang. And the example I use is Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos is worth $115 billion post-divorce. It's no judgment. I mean, whatever. So that's a lot of money. If you ratchet up the income tax, let's say to 75%, how much of his $115 billion do we get? Next to nothing, because he's not dumb enough to pay himself $10 billion a year and then let us get $7.5 billion. He's just going to pay himself enough to just satisfy his lifestyle. So if the wealth tax would not be ideal, what I'm proposing is we have a transactional tax on his trillion-dollar tech company Amazon, and you take a toll as it's coming in, which would be the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars from Jeff. And then when he takes $1 billion out of his wealth every year and buys rocket ships to Mars, which he actually does in real life, that's not made up, you can look it up, you take a toll on that too. Essentially, you take tolls on like the high-end transactions that are fueling many of these tech companies. If you did this, you would generate $800 billion plus in new revenue almost immediately, with a big up arrow attached to it, because a lot of the value that's going to get generated is going to be, let me throw this out there. Let's say we have self-driving trucks. How much tax revenue will we see from that? None. Because the beneficiary will be one of the trillion-dollar tech companies that doesn't pay any taxes. So what we have to do is we have to get in there and say, hey, we actually get a tiny toll of every robot truck mile, so that we can harvest some of the $168 billion a year in cost savings from robot trucks and get it into our hands. Right now, our corporate tax system is just highly, highly gameable, and the companies are too smart. So if you look around the world and you see other developed countries have figured out that this value-added tax, this toll tax, is almost impossible for companies to game their way out of. If they sell to us, they pay it, and then we get that money, and it makes us stronger. But I love the question so much, and thank you for the research. It's awesome.
Team, subscribe for more of these type of videos.